Thank you, Shepard. Well, on a day when they are honoring the service of this fallen police officer in New York City, the pylon on police continues pretty much everywhere. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and in the wake of Baltimore, police practices taking center stage on Capitol Hill today.
No more fixing, but lots of frisking, and that's what our folks feel. Last year, 120,000 police stops occurred in Baltimore. We're a population of 610,000. That's a lot.
Now to the woman who says it's got to stop. What's considered an assault on a police officer would be redefined. Washington, D.C. Council member Mary Cheh says right now a protester simply stiffening up to avoid being handcuffed or holding a door closed when a police officer is trying to enter can be deemed an assault, punishable by up to 6 months in jail. Now, she says the current rules then go way too far. The councilwoman with us now. So what are you saying then, Council? What would change under that? How would you tighten these up? What would be included? What would not?
Well, first of all, I want you to understand something. This change that I'm offering is one that even our own chief of police has suggested because the law is overbroad. It encompasses too much. What I'd like to have is a precise definition of what is an assault on a police officer. If there's other misconduct, like refusal to obey an order or resisting arrest, that should be identified as what it is. But that's only one part of my bill, by the way, and the bill that I put in place, or introduced rather, is one that has a number of other pieces that I think are not aimed so much at recent events, but may get a little traction because of recent events.
Well, let me just understand then, if someone's stiffening up in response to someone to being handcuffed or what have you, it shouldn't be included in a justifiable arrest. How does your police chief fine-tune that? What would be automatic grounds for having your fanny hauled in?
Well, it can be resisting arrest, but it should be charged as what it is, not an assault on a police officer. An assault is like any other assault, an intentional action, physical action against an officer, which certainly should be a crime and will be punished as a crime. But we want to be precise about it because assault on a police officer, particularly if it's on your record, even as an arrest, certainly carries, a greater significance than simply resisting arrest or some of the other failure to obey.
I understand what you're saying. So the way it is now in your city, is that if you are at all seeming to resist an arrest, either by stiffening up or just flinching in the face of someone handcuffing you, that is considered an assault, and you would be fine with that just redefined as resisting arrest.
Yes, exactly right. And so, for example, various activities have been considered an assault on a police officer, but didn't involve actually an assault on a police officer. So what we want to do is we want to make it more precise and for the law to cover the conduct that's charged.
But is it semantics, though, Councilwoman? Because someone could just say, well, if you're hauled to the courthouse or to jail temporarily, it doesn't really matter. You're still taken away. You say what?
No, it's not simply semantics. Assault on a police officer is a particularly, I think, far more serious crime than some of the other crimes that come under the umbrella of the statute now, which talks about interfering or interrupting an officer while he's carrying out his duties.
I understand. No, I understand what you're saying here. I just want to be clear. If either way, whether I'm assaulting that officer, even though that's not an assault, you're quite right to point that out, or resisting, I'm still going to be taken away. Now, maybe you're right.
Well, I mean, you may or may not be taken away, but you could be arrested.
The police don't really distinguish right now, right? They are still going to take you away. So you're saying that there's got to be a higher bar for them to trifle with you. They come back and then say, maybe with the best of interest at heart, Councilwoman, that you are really tying their hands, not the assaulted hands.
Actually, not at all. Not at all. And I don't think, especially with the police chief herself recognizing the problem, that there'll be much of an issue about that. The law was just, improperly drafted, and now because we have this improperly drafted law, we're stuck with it, and so I want to fix it up. But I want to talk about some of the other parts of the bill that I introduced, if you have an interest in it.
Give me one key point.
Okay. Well, it's going to change the way we do eyewitness identification. If if any reason more than any other for mistaken convictions, it's not bad forensics, it's not false confessions, but it's mistaken eyewitness identification. So it requires that the investigator who's having someone, say, look at photographs, not know who the suspect is or even whether the suspect is among those photographs, because what can happen is intentionally or inadvertently the investigator can then steer the witness to a particular picture, and nobody, not the police, not the public, not anybody, benefits from a mistaken eyewitness identification.
Real quickly, back to this, what could get you hauled off or not hauled off?
You want to do the hauling off, okay?
Well, because that it comes after Baltimore and everyone's attention on that. What would be the punishment for the officer who didn't do what you want this new law to do?
No, we're not talking about it that way. What we're talking about is whether...
But if an officer ignores you, what happens to him or her?
But it's not the punishment of the officer that we're focusing on. If the officer brings a case and it takes it to a prosecutor, the prosecutor won't charge assault on a police officer if the facts aren't there to support that. So
there'd be no punishment on the officer if he or she took that leap?
Well, if the officer arrested and there wasn't probable cause for an arrest, it was a mistaken arrest, yes, whatever action would otherwise happen would happen. But
well, you understand why an officer would interpret that, ma'am, as saying that you are out to get officers?
No, that's a charged way that you're expressing it. I don't think the officers...
it's a way an officer raised it with me the day we got news of this. Now, you might be right, but that was a quick officer's reaction.
Well, I also speak to officers, and I also know what our chief of police believes. We're not, diminishing in any way the ability of the officer to do his or her job. What we're doing is giving a more precise definition to what an assault
was your police
on a
chief
police
looking
officer.
at doing this prior to these Baltimore incidents?
Oh, her comments came even in a public hearing over a year ago. So
with the legislation that you drafted, Councilwoman, was that pre-Baltimore?
Well, actually, parts of that legislation were introduced last session, and they never got through the process. So it's just that this comes at a moment where there's heightened attention to this, but these reforms that I've put forward in this legislation were, a while in coming and weren't dependent upon those events.
Gotcha. Councilwoman, thank you very much for coming on our show. We appreciate you explaining this. Now, as I said, I did speak to officers at the time that the Councilwoman proposed this. I have a former D.C. detective with me right now, Dwayne Stanton. Dwayne, what do you make of what the council member wants to do?
Hello, Neil. How are you this evening?
Very good.
Good. Neil, an attempt or effort, either by force or by violence, of one person to injure another is assault. Any way you put it, you can't play with that. That's what it is. It's an assault if it's me, if it's you, if it's a vendor on the street, if it's a crossing guard, whoever it is. It's an assault.
But how is it assault? I mean, she does raise a point about if I just stiffen up because you're going to cuff me. I mean, now, under the technical definition, that's an assault right now. Is it? Should it?
It should be an assault, absolutely. And I haven't seen.
But I haven't done anything to you. You're just putting handcuffs on.
Well, if an assault takes place, what I witnessed, and I talk about Baltimore because that's the most recent thing that we've witnessed here. In the legislation, which I haven't read, I've only read bits and pieces. This talks about protesters. Well, what I saw, and I think I told you this last week, Neil, I didn't see protesting. Okay, I saw crimes being committed. They don't want labels, so we'll call them people who are committing crimes. And these people were committing crimes.
I'm sorry, I know I keep jumping, and I apologize, but this is a very important point, and the Councilwoman raised it as well. I just want to be clear.
Okay.
So you're saying what provoked the arrest in the first place precedes whatever conduct you were exhibiting at the time of the arrest. In other words, if you were being provocative or if you were protesting in any way that seemed to be getting in an officer's face, however you comported yourself at the time of either being cuffed or taken in doesn't matter. Is that right?
Sure. It does matter. If you remember the protests, there weren't any problems. There weren't any problems at all. There weren't any assault charges. And I also didn't see any assault charges while the crimes were taking place either, and there should have been assault charges. Those were assault charges that were not lodged against those people committing criminal acts.
All right, so if you are if you're taking people in, It's obviously gotten past the point that now you are beyond doubt, your officers are beyond doubt that a protest is getting on. You are of an assaulting nature then. So how you take them, whether they go peacefully or not, is a moot point, what you're saying, right?
It is a moot point, because if a person is committing a crime, some people may willfully say, okay, fine, I'm under arrest, I put my hands behind my back, and...
It's too late. You're saying it's too late.
Good.
But by this woman's ruling, or if she gets this and becomes the law in D.C., then it doesn't matter. Your guys, you would be in big trouble.
We're going to be in big trouble. Is there words in there like loosen and broaden? You can't do that and be successful. You just can't do it. And again, assault is an assault against no one, whoever it is. And again, enhanced penalties for other people. Did you know there are enhanced penalties for assaults against Department of Motor Vehicle ticket writers? There are enhanced penalties for assaults against the neighborhood watch individuals. There are enhanced penalties for a lot. To say that you're going to loosen and broaden, it's going to bring chaotic situation to the city.
All right, Dwayne, I'll watch closely. It is confusing, but we'll see what happens. Dwayne Stanton, thank you very, very much. Well, we know the government didn't do enough to take this terrorist down, but did a court just make it impossible to take anyone down, to an intel guy who is very, very, very worried?